We all know that Charlotte has its myths. You might have heard that the Pink Building was supposed to be Carolina blue, or that Charlotte's still this cheap southern city where your dollar goes super far. Yeah, none of that's really true. And I've got the info to prove it. Today I'm gonna break down Charlotte's major myths, why they won't die, and what the facts really are. Some of it might blow your mind, so let's get into it. All right, let's start by digging into Charlotte's most talked about building. We're gonna pull up the real paperwork that shows what actually happened with the pink glass building that everybody's always bringing up. Now, the myth is that it was supposed to be Carolina blue and that order of glass arrived and it was the wrong shade and the developer just decided to roll with it. Now, this building is called the Arlington and it's residential condominiums. It's affectionately known as the Pink Building. It was completed in 2003 and it's a 22-story high-rise that has about 115 condo units in it. It's in one of Charlotte's most prime locations and has one of the city's most dynamic views of uptown. Permits were filed in 1999 with Mecklenburg County, and when you dig into those permits, it shows that there are 0 change orders, no reorders, and no amendments to the original permit. And the original permits have a product code that calls for Vericon Desert Rose glass. And speaking of things that aren't always what they seem, wait until you see what Charlotte's housing prices look like compared to other cities that you never expect. So when you put all of this together with the permits, it shows that it was an intentional and deliberate choice from the developer who intended to make a statement in South End, affectionately known as the Pink Building. What this really shows us is how people in Charlotte like to turn Charlotte's growth into a feel-good story. And they want to believe in lucky accidents and funny mistakes because it makes the city seem more real, more down to earth. But the truth is, Charlotte's builders have been making smart, planned out choices from the very beginning. The Pink Building wasn't a goof. It was a sign of how carefully the developers in the city have shaped the way they want it to look. And if you think that's interesting, just wait until you hear what's under Charlotte's streets. The tunnel stories that everybody keeps talking about, they're about to take an unexpected turn. But before we head underground, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want the scoop on Charlotte real estate. We cover everything from major trends to deep dives on different neighborhoods, and believe me, you don't want to make these big decisions without the full picture first. Okay, this one drives me a little bit crazy because it's out there everywhere, but ask anyone about Charlotte and they'll bring up secret bootlegger tunnels and hidden escape routes during Prohibition and maybe even spooky catacombs under the city. Legend has it that there's a network of secret bootlegger passages and escape routes and even catacombs. But the reality is that there's a huge municipal storm sewer network that's operated by Charlotte Mecklenburg Stormwater Services under NPDES MS4 permitting. Today, that system has grown to include more than 150,000 storm drain inlets, 3,800 miles of drainage pipes underground, and about 2,400 miles of open ditches and streams. Charlotte Mecklenburg has developed a comprehensive storm management since response to floods in 1995 and 1997. But if you think that this tunnel myth is stubborn, wait until you hear how long people have been wrong about the name Uptown and where it actually came from. So when we went digging, WCNC in 2019 did an investigative finding that there's box culverts, corrugated metal pipes, and flood control vaults, engineered specs, but nothing clandestine. And the Moorhead Street project is a 150-foot long tunnel with a 13-foot horseshoe-shaped tunnel 20 feet under Moorhead Street with a 90-inch diameter of reinforced concrete pipe. That's where some of this stuff comes from. And according to public documents, Charlotte maintains a CCTV inspection log with comprehensive reports and monitoring. And there's an EPA permit oversight where Charlotte operates under NPDES permit NCS 000240, which was effective in October 2023. Here's what makes this myth so interesting. People keep calling Charlotte a new city with no real history, so they start making one up. Secret tunnels sound way cooler than we've got a top-notch flood management program. But that's the kind of infrastructure what helps Charlotte handle the massive kind of growth that overwhelms other cities. The real story is actually more impressive than the one that's made up. It's just not as cool. And that brings us to another name people think that's just made up from some fancy boardroom. So this one drives me nuts because it's just so easy to look up. The story says that downtown got renamed Uptown as some sort of marketing rebrand in the 1970s. The reality is that Charlotte Observer archives, the word Uptown was used for the Trade and Tryon area in 1888. There's also references to a streetcar called the Uptown Car. So this was 86 years before the supposed rebrand. And if you think people are wrong about Charlotte's naming history, just wait until you see how wrong they are about the cost of living in 2025. There's some geographic basis for the name Uptown. So if you look at the intersection of Trade and Tryon, it sits along a ridge line. It's part of the great trading path that the Catawba Indians used during their times in this area. And so from any direction surrounding Trade and Tryon intersection, it sits about 30 to 40 feet above surrounding creek basins. And early settlers literally said they would go up to town. So it's natural that that became uptown. It's also true that in 1974, the council took an action. On September 23rd, council minutes show Mayor John Belk's proclamation that Charlotte should be called uptown. So realistically, what happened is that they made official this already existing term. It didn't actually create a new one. This myth actually shows something bigger about how people see Charlotte. There's this idea that everything is fake, like the city's always trying too hard to be something it isn't. But Charlotte's been doing its own thing for way longer than people realize. The land shaped the way people talk, and the way people talk actually shaped the city's identity. And sometimes the real story is right in front of us. And that same kind of thinking leads to our last myth, which might be the most out-of-date one of them all. I'm about to show you some federal data that proves that Charlotte's reputation as a cheap city isn't just wrong. It's seriously outdated, especially if you're making money decisions based on the past. And those might have been true 10 years ago, but now they're not even close. And the numbers back it up in some pretty surprising ways. Charlotte's cost of living is only approximately 1% lower than the national average. Raleigh's cost of living is actually lower than Charlotte's, with Richmond, Virginia also being more affordable than Charlotte. Charlotte's more expensive than most comparable southern cities, and a lot of the reason is the explosion in housing costs. UNC Charlotte 2024 housing report says that a median single-family income is $429,945. In fact, since 2024, prices have doubled, not 50% or 75% higher, but 100% higher. And Charlotte's national median price is $422,800. Charlotte area home prices now exceed the national median by about $5,000 according to recent data. Now, this is caused by several reasons. From 2020 to 2022, Charlotte experienced massive population growth. Some of that had to do with remote workers relocating from expensive cities, and demand just hit an unprepared housing market. So what makes this myth risky is the timing. Just as Charlotte stopped being cheap, the marketing kept pushing it as affordable, and people are making big financial decisions based on information that's at least 5 years old. It's not that Charlotte's trying to fool anyone, but the reputation hasn't kept up with the truth. And in real estate, that gap can cost you big time. So why do all these myths matter? Because if you're thinking about moving here or investing in Charlotte, they can lead to real financial mistakes if you're not prepared. Look, Charlotte's an amazing city. There's huge opportunity, great food, and honestly impressive infrastructure. But it's not the city that these old stories make it out to be, and it's definitely not the bargain that people think it is. So if you're thinking about moving to Charlotte or trying to figure out the real estate market, you need real info, not stories from the 1990s. We work with people navigating Charlotte's housing market daily. I can tell you exactly what you need to know about neighborhoods and price trends and what your budget can really get you. So email us today, info@jwhitegroup.com, and let's talk about your situation. But don't go just yet. We've got another video linked up right here where we dig into where the ultra wealthy live in Charlotte. You're going to be surprised by some of the neighborhood and housing prices and the features that they have inside. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.